Okay, I think as we're trickling in, thank you everyone for being here. I'm going to go ahead and just get started with some brief meeting guidelines. Um, my name is Mel Musey, I'm an environmental planner at DVRPC for those of you who don't know me. And today, let me go to the next slide. Today, um, we will be following these meeting guidelines. We have a chat box. Thank you all for introducing yourself. If you're just now arriving, if you could just say your name and organization in the chat box. Please use the Q&A box to submit questions. You can upvote questions submitted by others, but we'll have a designated Q&A time later. And this meeting will be recorded, and please complete the post-meeting survey following this. This is our agenda for today. We will be doing introductions with our Associate Director of Livable Communities, and then we will move into a presentation about the report by myself, and then we will have a panel discussion, which we'll talk about later and end with some closing remarks. So to get us started, I will now be passing the meeting to Karen Solurso to get us started. Thank you, Karen.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Solurso. I am the Associate Director of Livable Communities at DVRPC. And on behalf of the entire webinar team, welcome. We're really glad that you can join us for our conversation on multi-municipal stormwater collaboration. So I'm going to first go through who DVRPC is for those of you who are not familiar with our organization, and then talk a little bit about how DVRPC strives to build resilience in the region. So who is DVRPC? We are the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for the 9-county Greater Philadelphia region. Our region spans 2 states, 9 counties, 4 cities, 350 municipalities, and thousands of neighborhoods. At our core, we bring together to build consensus around a shared regional vision. We support data-driven, community-centered solutions. We help turn plans into action and partner with others to tackle these issues that shape our long-range plan, Update Connections 2050. Adopted in September of 2025, that plan lays out a vision for a region with a safe, modern, multimodal transportation network, an innovative, connected economy with shared prosperity, healthy, walkable communities, a preserved and restored natural environment, and a clean, reliable, affordable infrastructure that can withstand extreme weather. While we help set the regional vision, we know that implementation happens at the local level. As an advisory agency, we provide tools, guidance, and technical assistance to help local governments plan, design, and implement projects. Our support is available to all 350 municipalities across a range of topics, including transportation, economic development, and environmental planning. But today we're focusing on stormwater management because it's become an increasingly complex responsibility for municipalities. Regulations continue to evolve, infrastructure is aging, and we're seeing more frequent heavy rainfall and flooding. All of that puts added pressure on local stormwater systems. At the same time, many municipalities are working with limited staff, tight budgets, and varying levels of technical capacity, which makes meeting these growing responsibilities even more challenging. Recognizing these realities, DVRPC works closely with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection on a variety of programs and initiatives. Our staff engage local governments and community members to advance the goals of the Coastal Zone Management Program. It is through that work we help administer grants that improve water quality, expand public access to coastal resources, and reduce the impacts of stormwater runoff and non-point source pollution. Today's webinar really reflects the shared commitment between DVRPC and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to identify practical solutions and strengthen collaboration around stormwater challenges. It's really great to see so many of you here today to hear our newest report and talk about this topic. So to help our panelists get a better sense of who's in our audience, we're going to launch a quick poll. We'd love to know how you would describe your experience with stormwater collaboration.
And Karen, just to check, are you able to see the poll also, or is it only us? Okay, that's what I was wondering. Great, then I can let you know what it says. So far, we
Wonderful.
have, I was like, wait, I think only as the host, I'm the one who can see it. So we have about 72, 73% of people responded. We have a really good mix of folks. The top ones are actively involved in multi-municipal collaborative with 30% there, and then 25% with interested but not currently involved. So we'll give it a few other seconds. We're at 79%. People really answering the poll. Thank you so much. And then I'll end the poll and share it. Okay, great. There we go. And Karen, can you see when I share the poll? Okay,
Yes, I
good.
can see now.
The
Thank
the
you so
Zoom settings
much.
of who can see what. So there's the final results for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for taking the poll. I think this is really helpful information, and I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mel to get started. Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Karen. So now we will move into the presentation portion here. So recently, DVRPC has published this report titled An Investigation into Multi-Municipal Stormwater Planning. So this report takes a closer look at the challenges municipalities face in meeting stormwater management requirements under the municipal separate storm sewer system, and how a program and how they can work together more. So through research, interviews with municipalities, regional stakeholders, and existing collaboratives. Um, the study captures real-world experiences from organizations doing this work across Delaware County. So today we're going to highlight what's working, where challenges remain, and how collaboration is helping municipalities navigate increasingly complex stormwater responsibilities. So following this presentation, we will hear directly from the representatives of several stormwater collaboratives who will share lessons learned from their work. So our hope is that today's conversation provides both insight and inspiration, whether you're part of an existing collaborative or, just beginning to explore those collaborative opportunities. So, to get started, I just wanted to take a moment and emphasize why stormwater? Why are we here and why does this work matter? So, unmanaged stormwater poses a serious threat to our waterways. It contributes to flooding, erosion, and water quality impairments. At the same time, municipalities are facing growing regulatory and infrastructure demands and finding ways to work with limited space and within complicated development patterns. Um, all makes stormwater management kind of more complex than ever. So our goal today is to kind of help explore and look at the feasibility of how collaboration can help ease that burden and support more effective stormwater management across the region. So as these storm events become more intense and as these regulatory requirements continue to evolve and development pressures increase, municipalities are being asked to do more with limited staff, funding, and technical capacity. So, yeah, again, this makes regional coordination and shared approaches more important than ever. So I have a couple things I just wanted to get into before we get into the report, and that is what is a MS4? What is a municipal separate storm sewer system? So just quickly, this is a water conveyance system operated by a municipality. So these include things like underground pipes, roads with storm drains, or retention basins, basically things that are made to gather stormwater that's run off of impervious surfaces like asphalt and discharge it directly into local waterways. So unlike sanitary sewers, these MS4s don't connect to water treatment plants. So this means stormwater can just untreated enter our streams, creeks, and rivers without treatment. So once that point happens, pollutants are carried, uh, and this can really impact water quality. So it can have a number of downstream effects that can be hard to catch. So that's why we have these MS4 permits. Um, an MS4 permit is a requirement for municipalities to manage stormwater runoff. There are many different components within it, but one major requirement is the minimum control measures that municipalities seek to meet. So these cover a range of different topics involving stormwater management. It's not just physical, it also includes public education and things like that. And so municipalities are required to comply with these regulations that are designed to reduce the amount of pollutants entering our waterways, which ultimately will improve water quality. So we have hundreds of MS4s across the state of Pennsylvania, but this project focuses specifically on a few Delaware County municipalities, although all 49 municipalities in Delaware County are MS4 holders. So to get us started with our research, this is a map of the Huck 11 Delaware County watersheds. So this is where the majority of our research has looked at. As you can see, there are waterways scattered all throughout this map. So getting into this and doing our research, we wanted to learn about the amazing work that's already being done in this realm, and then also see if we can help identify any other solutions and challenges. And we also wanted to do this work to kind of complement some of the existing stormwater related efforts, like the Act 167 countywide plan that's going on right now. So in addition to our background research that we conducted, the next phase of our report involved conducting interviews with different types of people working in stormwater management in Delaware County. So we kind of had three main groups that we worked with. These categories were selected to kind of try to cover the full landscape of stormwater management. And kind of capture a comprehensive view of the experiences and challenges faced by those in the region. So we have our stormwater collaboratives that are listed here, and I won't go too much into this now because we have a fabulous panel for interviewing all four of these groups after this. But we also interviewed three different municipalities and a range of different stakeholders. And we also have a staff member that's working on a report that includes information with additional municipal and stakeholder interviews that we've done. And we do plan to publish those updated findings at a later date. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that this work is ongoing, and I'll kind of continue talking about that later in the program. So as far as our municipal takeaways, we found some common themes that emerged, although the three municipalities that we interviewed are, different. One thing is that many municipalities described limited staff capacity and a heavy reliance on outside consultants. Additionally, there was kind of this cautious but growing interest in collaboration communicated across all of them. And also, there was a strong interest in kind of wanting practical tools and clearer guidance about the regulatory requirements, and also wanting opportunities to learn from peer communities. So I think there are many different kind of actionable things in there. But overall, these findings just point to the need for strategies that build local capacity, support compliance, and just make collaboration easier and more effective for municipalities. At the same time, I did want to note that part of this stormwater management planning also includes considering the unique challenges that each municipality faces. So, Upper Chichester Township we interviewed, they were able to kind of focus more on building long-term capacity, and were able to create a centralized stormwater authority and kind of continue investment in green infrastructure. So that was kind of a really great thing that they were able to do. Tinicum Township we interviewed, and it was really informative to learn that they kind of had some unique hydrological traits that needed extra consideration in planning as well. So some of these examples just kind of highlight the value of tailoring approaches to local conditions, while also pursuing multi-municipal strategies to improve stormwater management outcomes. So I did want to also talk about the interviews that we had with the key stakeholders. So the key stakeholders, I can, if you'd like to kind of read more about the kind of specifics and get more in detail into these, the PDF is linked in the chat that has case studies of all of our interviews, all the people that we interviewed, the stakeholders, municipalities, and all of that. But the biggest thing that we took away from this is that they really are a great resource. So all the groups that we interviewed, they were really enthusiastic to help support municipalities in any way that they can through offering things like trainings, helping with coordinate volunteers. They can even support municipalities with meeting specific MCM requirements, such as MCM number 1, which involves public education. They can provide support from that. So I think that's a really awesome thing. So just kind of getting more into we talked about the interviews and what kind of was our final takeaways. What lessons did we learn from these interviews? So we combined them into recommendations for these 3 groups. These are just suggestions based on our research. The interviews underscored many of the challenges that municipalities faced in not only in meeting MS4 requirements, but also in effectively managing stormwaters. But at the same time, they revealed a range of promising local programs and collaborative models that could support municipalities in Delaware County. Improving this across the county will require coordinated efforts from regional agencies, municipalities, and supporting organizations. So the following recommendations that I have here help to identify practical steps that DVRPC, local governments, and key partners can take to reduce the barriers, strengthen collaboration, and help to advance more effective, efficient, and sustainable stormwater strategies across the county. So we have a full list with numerous recommendations listed in the PDF, but for the sake of this overview, I've just selected 2 recommendations from each category to talk about a little bit. So 2 recommendations that we intend for DVRPC to try to incorporate is 1, to help advance multi-municipal collaboration by working with partners like Delaware County Planning and other key stakeholders to help support meeting MCMs 1 and 2. Additionally, we want to help to advance understanding by continuing to do additional outreach, do interviews with municipalities, talk to technical experts and other organizations to help identify gaps and opportunities for more effective regional coordination. 2 recommendations that we had for municipalities. 1 is to try to pursue collaborative funding opportunities by applying for joint grants with neighboring municipalities to support green stormwater infrastructure implementation and other shared stormwater projects. So I think this can look a lot of different ways, and it kind of relates also to recommendation number 2, which is explore smaller scale partnerships. So partnerships and collaboration doesn't always have to be one gigantic sort of program. It can be, you can collaborate on pieces of things, and that can often be a easier entry point. And lastly, we have some actions for key stakeholders as well. And one thing we think that could be beneficial is to help provide targeted trainings for different types of people that work in the stormwater world, like the engineers, the policymakers, and other type of local decision makers to kind of help focus on targeted, MCM requirements. Additionally, we have new regulations coming up soon, such as the PAG 13 permit update, which will impact MS4 permit holders. So, doing what we can to support municipalities in navigating regulatory changes will be super important. And lastly, I just wanted to point folks to the actual report PDF, which I think has been shared a couple times in the chat, but it does live on our DVRPC website. And if you've read through it and taken a look at our case studies and have questions or want to chat more about it later, feel free to ask me those questions in the Q&A now, or feel free to email me after this program today. So yeah, that is what I have for now. Um, Let me stop sharing for a second.
Hi, Mel. There are currently no questions in the Q&A box, so we'll give folks maybe a minute or two to enter some questions.
And it looks like
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just about to say, and it looks like a question was just entered in the chat from John Doyle, in regards to actions by munis. Who are the people taking the action slash participating in the partnerships? So Mel and Amy, thoughts on that?
So, yeah, I think that's a good question. I think there's a lot of people involved in the partnerships. So, in the case of municipalities who would be forming a collaborative, um, you have sometimes you have consultants and engineers kind of involved in making those agreements. The partnerships can be kind of legal, they can be more financial, and they can look differently. But I think ultimately they kind of get to that final goal of improving stormwater management. But yeah, I think all of those people that you've listed in your question, elected officials, municipal staff, consultants, they all kind of work together in order to achieve an agreement. But I think it looks differently. Yeah, if you have anything to add, Amy, feel free.
Sure. Yeah, I think Mel, you've mostly got it there, and I think our panelists can probably even expand upon this further as they're very familiar with kind of the different types of staff or officials that are involved in their collaboratives. From what we've heard, it's a lot of times the municipal engineer that attends the kind of meeting and is more of the kind of regular face of the municipality of these partnerships. But as Mel noted, it often requires kind of a signed MOU on which would require kind of municipal the elected officials to kind of sign off on that as well. Um,
We also have a question from the Q&A chat that comes from Daniel. They ask, you had mentioned green infrastructure. Could you explain some of what that is?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So, green infrastructure it's kind of a broad word, but basically, one of the issues that municipalities are facing is what do we do when this water falls and it's just flowing all into the storm drains? It can overflow the system. So, when water rolls off of concrete and impervious surfaces like that, it contributes to that overflow in the pipe systems and things like that. But if we can have things like grass or community gardens or retention basins that have, um, different native plants planted in them and things like that, um, those can kind of slow or prevent the flow of water into the waterways and have a number of other benefits as well, aesthetic benefits, air quality benefits, things like that. So that's what I mean by green infrastructure is any type of design that kind of is involves kind of nature and helps absorb the water and keep it where it lands.
Thanks, Mel. We had a follow-up question from John Doyle. And this may also be, John, I'll mention we should maybe a question for the panelists later, but the question is how many municipalities participate in a typical successful partnership?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that it depends. I think it really all depends on the resources and the time available that the municipalities participating together have, and the size of the watershed, what pollutants they're trying to tackle, things like that. So I think there's a lot of variables there, but you can have a small partnership that's successful, but you can also have a larger partnership that's successful as well.
And I will add that I think the collaborators that we have on our panel today cover a pretty wide range, and they have very different models of kind of collaboration. But some of the groups are, looking at maybe 6 to 8 municipalities, and some that are, different offer different services have as many as 35 municipalities that are part of their partnership. So it definitely can range. We had another question from Andrew Lloyd. He asked, does PA have regs which are encouraging multi-municipal work, such as the newly emerging watershed improvement planning regs in New Jersey? And I can take a stab at that too if you'd like, Mel.
Yeah, that's a great
Okay.
question. I would have to think about that. But if you have thoughts, Amy, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
so Andrew, the PAGEP recently released some draft updated the PAG 13 regs for the MS4 permits. So they're kind of considering ways to update their MS4 permits. And under those new draft regulations, it would encourage multi-municipal collaboration. Municipalities that participate in a collaboration on a PRP, which is a pollutant reduction plan, could get kind of extra credit towards towards their permit, to like lowering the volume of pollutants that they have to account for. So that has not been, fully approved and adopted, but it's something that they're looking into. And I know we have some other folks from PADEP, so please message me if I'm misrepresenting that as well. I think have maybe time for one more question. How much we have? So there's a question from, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Jelena. It says, did you receive any particular feedback from various municipalities on how to improve the implementation or promotion of the non-structural BMPs involved in MCM number 6, Good Housekeeping? Considering it requires a lot of interagency collaboration to integrate pollution prevention measures into daily operational activities. So Mel, that is specifically the kind of municipal operations, like fleet maintenance, kind of things like that, that MCM number 6. I don't know if you want to respond to that or...
Yeah, I think I would have to think about that. Yeah, if you want to take a stab at it, Amy, I'll
Yeah, I
see if
think
I
the
know
short
anything
answer is we
else.
did not receive any specific feedback on that one. I know that is one that kind of municipalities struggle with, but a lot of the kind of partners and collaboratives that we worked with specifically target trainings on MCM6. So that's something we'd kind of look to them to support the municipalities with that work.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, Ashley mentioned she can address that at the panel there. So please, yeah, stay tuned for that one. And then there's one final question, and then we're going to move on. And Charles was asking us to talk a little bit about doing MS4 efforts at the source rather than area-wide stormwater management facilities. And I might actually encourage us, I think that might be, we can hold that to the panel discussion, because I think a lot of our panelists can talk about some of the efforts that they do specifically at the house and business level as opposed to kind of municipal wide. So Mel, does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I think, yeah, these past couple questions, I think will be kind of involved in the panel. And so I'm, yeah, excited to get into that.
Great. Okay, and I think with that, we are ready to move on.
Okay, wonderful. So I guess now we will move into the panel section of this program. So just kind of a brief overall. just to mention again, these are representatives from the 4 stormwater collaboratives that are doing great work in the region. And they've so graciously came here today to talk about and share about their experiences and kind of lessons learned from, being a part of this collaborative process. We have Jamie Anderson here today, who is the coordinator for the Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative. We also have Jessie Kemper, who is the Director of Conservation for the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy. We also have Ashley J. Showers, the Executive Director for Berks County Planning Commission and the Administrator and Secretary for Berks County MS4 Steering Committee. And then we also have Nicholas Johnson, who is a secretary and engineer for the Wyomissing Creek Watershed Coalition. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. I'm really excited to get into this. So just kind of an initial introductory question. If if each of you could go around and please introduce yourself, introduce your organization, and introduce the kind of communities or regions that you work with. So we can kind of start in order. So if you want to go first, Jamie, that'd be great.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here. So I'm Jamie Anderson. I manage the Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative, which is a partnership of 11 municipalities working in the Darby-Cobbs watershed in Eastern Delaware County. 8 of those municipalities have also done a joint pollutant reduction plan. We focus, the main Stormwater Collaborative focuses on MCMs 1, 2, and 6, and some pretty on the ground education of residents and public works teams.
Great. Thank you so much. Jessie, could you share for us, please?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessie Kemper. I'm the Director of Conservation at the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy. For anybody who's not familiar with the watershed, we're an environmental nonprofit. We were originally founded in 1964, basically a group of concerned citizens kind of banded together to address water quality issues within the Perkiomen Creek watershed. And our mission as an organization is to preserve and protect the land and water resources of the Perkiomen Creek watershed. So we're very much a local-based organization, and all the work that we do is based within the area of the Perkiomen Creek watershed. So it's 362 square miles. We're in 4 PA counties: Bucks, Berks, Montgomery, and Lehigh, and that area also encompasses 55 municipalities. And so we focus mostly on hands-on conservation projects, environmental stewardship, education, and then we also do community outreach and events. And part of my responsibilities as the Director of Conservation is managing our annual membership program that we offer for municipalities within the Perkiomen Creek watershed. So this is a membership-based program, and we offer a lot of support to local municipalities to meet the MS4 permit requirements. We do education, workshops, we offer grant funding. We do an annual stormwater symposium for public works staff and municipal staff, trying to basically do everything we can to help municipalities meet those requirements.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Ashley?
Thank you, Mel. Yes, thank you everyone for joining us today to discuss our efforts that we've done through our different collaborative approaches. I'm Ashley Showers. I'm the Executive Director of the Berks County Planning Commission. The Planning Commission provides administrative duties to the municipalities in Berks County who have MS4 and PDS permits. Through the MS4 Steering Committee, we have currently 30 of our 72 municipalities part of that collaborative. Similar to Jessie, through that membership, because there are annual dues paid by the municipalities, we offer education through our education partners. Julie says I'm coming through scratchy.
We can hear you though, but it's a little...
Okay.
Yeah, there's some kind of like feedback or like a vibration or something like that.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
hardwired in.
totally fine.
Okay. Um, so we provide educational events. We have a swag bus that roams around to the school districts, municipalities through our conservation district. We have a riparian buffer volunteer trailer that we use with the master watershed stewards in the county, but are also available to the municipalities if they do their own programs. And then we really work on education for municipal employees. So we've done numerous workshops throughout the history of the steering committee, where we've worked with our partners like Julie at the Center for Watershed Protection. So really, that's a pretty good overview of what we've done.
Wonderful. Okay, yeah, so much great stuff going on. Nick, are you out there?
I'm
Okay,
hiding
great.
out here in cyberspace, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Nick Johnson, I am a municipal engineer that worked for a small local firm, started my own a few years ago, but um, I'm actually the chairperson of the Berks County MS4 steering committee, but Ashley does all the hard work, so I'll let her take all the credit too. But the group I'm mostly here for is the Wyomissing Creek Watershed Coalition. Wyomissing Creek is high quality cold water fishery in the greater Reading area, mostly Reading and some of its major suburbs in Berks County. Um, our group was driven by a TMDL. For those of you who aren't up on the technical lingo, that's total maximum daily load. And in plain English, it's a pollution diet for the stream. So our stream is over-consuming sediment pollution, which is negatively impacting it. It's our job to, in accordance with the state regulations, try and trim the fat for the stream a little bit. So it is an 8-member municipal group working together to jointly fund, complete, and take credit for a number of stormwater management projects in the watershed. The watershed itself is a little bit over 11,000 acres, so not as large as some of the other ones, but it is unique in that the core corridor is pretty highly urbanized and has been since the early days of European settlement. Um, but that being said, we benefit from a large amount of open space in the headwaters of the watershed, as well as a lot of municipal parklands located immediately next to the stream that makes it, frankly speaking, not nearly as bad as it ought to be, or at least you think it would be. So I'm here representing that group as their secretary and engineer.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. So I have a question that I think relates a little bit to some of the questions that were asked earlier. So the question that I have is, um, in your experience, what strategies or approaches have been most effective at getting municipalities to work collaboratively on stormwater? And why do you think those questions work? So, um, Ashley, would you be able to take a stab at that question?
Sure. So in Berks County, we have a pretty robust joint municipal comprehensive planning program. So we've really pushed regionalization and collaboration for many, many years. And so I think we've set a precedent with that, which made municipalities for MS4 feel comfortable of collaborating additionally with their neighbors, because some may already be doing that through a municipal comp plan. So that was a benefit to us. And I think I always say the sell is, it's better that we do it together than do it individually for time, manpower, and cost.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious for Jamie with Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative. Um, I guess, how do you feel about, that question, like what strategies or approaches have been most effective in getting municipalities to collaborate?
So I think one of the words that Ashley said was comfortable, and I think it's
Mm,
really important that municipalities feel comfortable working together and they feel comfortable working with a person that's leading the sort of collaboration. Municipalities they're all different. They all have different stressors and different needs and different, support internally and externally, from what they're doing. Some have EAC, some have big tree tender groups, some don't. And so I think it's a matter of, allowing for meeting regularly, which I think is important, and allowing for conversation, allowing for them to sort of, lead the direction of which your collaboration is going to go, making sure voices are heard, and really just making sure that everyone is comfortable voicing their opinion. I sometimes describe the Stormwater Collaborative as, a little bit of a family. We all have been together for a long time. We all kind of know what's going on. We're all very comfortable. If if someone doesn't agree with the direction we're going, we're all very comfortable having a very open conversation about that. And I think that's really key.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, like building that trust, because it just doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, I think that leads me to another question, um, which is, what do you think would be most helpful for residents to know about stormwater? So kind of going the other end, because we do need some of their involvement in meeting, these requirements and things like that. So I'm curious if Jessie or Nick, if you have any thoughts about that question.
I can touch on that really quick. So I
Yeah.
think the big thing that we try to emphasize with our educational programming is, showing them that stormwater isn't just about flooding. It's not just a flooding issue. It directly impacts the health of our local streams, drinking water, community infrastructure, public parks and open spaces and things like that. And also just giving residents, like basically empowering residents to show them what they can do, small steps at home, native plants, rain gardens, rain barrels, things like that, that can really make a big impact, and basically add up on a larger watershed scale.
Definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Nick, did you have any thoughts about that question?
Not too many that Jesse didn't already cover. Um,
Sure.
no, I think it's important to think of things as we kind of talk about the one water approach, which is a buzzword in the industry everywhere. But stormwater impacts everything. It
Yeah.
is flooding, it is infrastructure, it is economic development, it is water quality for drinking water, it impacts your sanitary source system. So it has a very broad reach beyond just one component. Um, Unfortunately, the biggest challenge with stormwater is if you're further upstream from someone, you don't see the negative impact or positive impact that you can have downstream as much. I'm
Mhm.
certain that the water works at Pottstown or in Philadelphia have strong feelings about what Berks County is doing to manage their stormwater, but we don't necessarily see the impact after it passes out of our immediate vicinity. So yeah, just driving home that it impacts everything, and really the water you drink, the wastewater, the stormwater is all part of one continuous cycle. So one leg of it impacts the other ones just as equally.
Definitely. I think that is a big point. Yeah, making sure people get that it's not just this kind of siloed thing. That's a great point. Um, I think that I'm curious about if any of you, this is an open question, could share of an example, kind of a specific example of a community that went from kind of just meeting the requirements or maybe even having issues meeting the requirements to kind of going above and beyond, and kind of why you think they were successful in doing that. Was it the, public education component? Was it, something else? Yeah,
I guess I'll take a stab at that if
sure.
so I'm gonna say I feel like all the municipalities in the collaborative are now going above and beyond. I think
Mhm.
that myself and Karen Holm, who works with us, who's also on this call,
Mhm.
really kind of build up this robust outreach and education program. We've partnered with a lot of nonprofits, and having a collaborative where there's one point of contact for a bunch of municipalities makes it really easy to work with nonprofits because I can funnel the information logistics down. So we've built this sort of local, becoming more regional approach called Growing Greener Communities with a bunch of local nonprofits to expand that out. And we'll go out and pound the pavement with residents and community groups to really see ideas come to action and make a change.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. And I should have mentioned this at the start of the panel, but if you see the agenda document that's linked in the chat, you can also find some background information, the biographies of our panelists and things like that, and learn more about their work. So yeah, continuing on. So I think that a question that came up a lot in our work was kind of the administrative and cost coordination sort of thing with stormwater management. Because, yeah, as you said, Nick, sometimes one person does something and it impacts a lot of other people down the way. So, um, I'm curious, I guess, Nick, I'm curious if you want to answer this question. What funding strategies or tools have been the most helpful in facilitating sustainable financial operations for your collaborative?
In the case of the Wyomissing Creek Watershed Coalition, from very early on, we kind of had a two-phase approach, and I keep using this analogy. Um, it's like eight friends going to dinner and splitting the cost of the gas evenly eight ways. That was the preliminary studies, and everybody shared equally. After we got to dinner, five people ordered salads and three ordered surf and turf. So at that time, it was more appropriate to allocate the costs relative to the actual impact. So in the Wyomissing Creek, it's a ratio of the urbanized area um, in a particular municipality to the total urbanized area in the watershed. I know a lot of collaboratives have more nuanced breakdowns than that, but essentially the focus was that seems to be the most impactful because there is still a lot of woodlands and open space in the headwaters of the watershed and even in some of the park corridors. Um, that okay, the problem is urbanization, not so much agriculture in our watershed. So it should be heavily based on the urbanized area in a municipality and what their share of the impact is. Now, saying all that, the three largest municipalities that have the largest share, we did also basically give them a discount to incentivize it. All three of them have slightly more than 20% of the total urbanized area in the watershed. But they all were developed much later. The small boroughs have been built out for the better part of 100 years. So there is no existing stormwater management or next to none. There's no land to put it in, etc. Versus these larger municipalities that have been developed in the last few decades have a lot of detention ponds that were put in as part of developments that are ripe for retrofit. They have more open spaces where you can put in new infrastructure to manage the stormwater without having to basically buy buildings, knock them down, and then get to work on the project. So that's how our cost sharing scheme works. Um, and to the credit of all eight municipalities, everybody's concerned about their bottom line, but fairly quickly, all eight of them bought into this concept as being fair and reasonable for all parties involved.
Wow. Yeah, that's really awesome to hear. I'm curious, I do have a follow-up question for you. For the folks that are kind of just getting started with, investigating collaboration, do you have any advice for getting those conversations about, how to divide up um, how to divide up the costs and things like that?
I think and this is very difficult for municipalities because everybody is concerned about their own constituency, obviously, but the impact to their ratepayers and taxpayers. And frankly, we've had challenges keeping folks bought in. I'd say that's the biggest challenge we faced, keeping the engagement and keeping people of the mindset that this is a fair system. Really, it's good to already have multi-municipal coordination at a higher level. It's very easy in Pennsylvania for everything to turn into its own little fiefdom because of the structure of our local governments. But to give Ashley a shout out, the Planning Commission has worked hard to try and get municipalities to work together on regional planning and other initiatives, cooperative purchasing. So not saying there aren't spats between neighbors in our area by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of having some of that legwork done on other initiatives before stormwater management is a big help. But if I had to give one nugget of advice, it would be just get out there and know your neighbors, know your neighboring municipalities at a fundamental level as best you can, what their concerns and challenges are, and get to know your watershed itself, some of its history, idiosyncrasies, geology. Even you don't have to be a geologist to understand the impacts of high slopes or agriculture in the core of the watershed or anything like that. So it's really get to know your neighbors, get to know your watershed, and if you start planting those seeds, it will be much easier to get folks to buy in to the idea of for the greater good and not worrying about every last nickel and dime of what is quote unquote fair. You could spend an awful lot of time and effort on studies and not have an actual impact to the watershed. Or you could just go, you know what? We might not have it exactly zeroed in. Maybe my share should be 10.7% instead of 10.9%. We're not going to worry about those last couple nickels because ultimately this is for the good of the watershed and our municipality as well.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Ashley, did you have something to add to that, or did you want to answer the question as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Nick said. So it's always good practice to have options. So I would recommend anybody who is thinking about a collaborative and talking about how to financially structure that collaborative, present different options, right? So even like regularly, annually for our collaborative, we do an annual dues analysis and we talk about upcoming programming and how that's, how much that's gonna cost and what the hours will be, because that's how we invoice the collaborative is through the education partners, hourly wages with some other additional charges based on our different organizations that have overhead and overages of that nature, but options. So you can do like a broad brush analysis and give them, okay, if we pay this, this, or this, you can get really micro scale and look at, as Nick said, like what is the impervious coverage for each municipality and base it on that. You could look at how much availability of open land there is to install BMPs and property ownership, even something like that. So options is always a good place to start. Don't just go in with one thought, present some options, and then maybe it'll be a combination of those options.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's a great point because, yeah, it's sometimes you have to offer different options because everybody is set up differently. But I think that also is a great point too. I wanted to check in with you, Jessie, about this question because I know Perkiomen has a really cool fee structure. So did you have any kind of thoughts about that you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sorry right now, as you ask this question, my dog is barking, so you might hear in the background.
It's all good.
I'm sorry about that. But yeah, we offer, I kind of mentioned in my intro, we offer an annual membership program. And right now it's only for individual municipalities. Basically, they can kind of choose which level of support they want and how much they're able to pay. And with that annual membership comes different benefits. So we have 3 different membership levels, basically at the top level, municipalities are getting grant funding, potential for grant funding. So they submit a grant application to us and we choose which projects we're going to work with. I mentioned we also have the Perkiomen Watershed Symposium. So that's an annual training. It's a day-long training. We typically host it at our science college. It's actually coming up. It's March 20th. So if anybody's interested, you can you can purchase tickets on our website. But that's designed to be like a one-stop shop for all things MS4. It covers all 6 MCMs, and it's really great for engineers, public works staff, municipal groups, anything like that. And then we also offer community engagement workshops. So those are hands-on workshops, rain garden installation workshops, rain barrel building workshops, lawn to native garden workshops. And then we also provide basically a statistics package summarizing like all the different events that municipalities participated in, and showing public involvement and participation that municipalities can use in their annual reports. And then we also do educational articles. So that's kind of like the full list of everything that we offer. And then at the different membership levels, they'll receive some version of those benefits. But that works out really well because it's really each municipality can kind of decide what level they're able to commit to. And then it also helps us identify areas where stormwater projects are needed and potential partnerships as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really great way for kind of municipalities to dip their toe in if they're kind of hesitant and learn more about the process. So yeah, thank you for sharing about that. Yeah, so kind of on this theme about partnerships. So we talked a little bit about, working with residents and kind of building multi-municipal kind of collaborations. But so through our research, Jamie, we like Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative, we thought was really notable for all the different partnerships that you guys have been able to work with to kind of help put on events and programs and things like that. So can you speak a little bit on like the types of partnerships your organization works with and how you were able to kind of get those started like with other organizations?
Yeah, sure. So the collaborative doesn't, I mean, I'm a consultant for the collaborative and Karen is a consultant to the collaborative. We don't have like a robust staff, but we have robust ideas of what we want to see happen in the community. And so sometimes that requires you to partner with, nonprofits in the area. There's a watershed association. There's a, so our Growing Greener Communities is made up of the Darby Creek Valley Association, the Stormwater Collaborative, the Pennsylvania Resources Council, and the Lower Merion Conservancy. We were all brought together through the DRWI, William Penn Foundation work. We were kind of created the COBS partners, and we've kept that going afterwards. And we recognize that there's a lot of work that needs to get done. We all can kind of share that work and share our resources to get it done. So through that, we've created what I've talked about, this Growing Greener Communities collaborative. We've created the Have a Rain Garden program, where we've supported the installation through volunteer labor of over 100 rain gardens. We've carried that over into Upper Darby. We put in spot residential rain gardens throughout our service area. We build downspout planters with volunteers and install those. We do rain barrel workshops. We do lawn to meadow conversions. I think every one of us has plants or other things stored at our houses. So it's very much a grassroots effort, community led of what we're doing. The Stormwater Collaborative doesn't have offices. Sometimes we'll store stuff at a municipal building. And that's sort of the part of it, right? You're in this sort of little family of municipalities working together on stormwater management, and everyone chips in their own way. We might have trees delivered to one municipal parking lot. We might have rain barrels delivered to another place. We ask them to share their meeting spaces for our workshops. So it came about really organically. Those organizations were very comfortable working together with each other. We, at this point, have 4 or 5 grants going that fund the work within the Stormwater Collaborative communities. And we can, we're sort of trying to build that out a little bit more with more community groups that are in the region. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of environmental justice issues that we're trying to address and resolve. And so if we all work together, we find that we can kind of get more done with less resources.
Okay, great. That's amazing. Thank you so much. So we have a couple more minutes and then we'll move into the answer some questions from folks. But I did have a question. What excites you the most about the future of stormwater management in Pennsylvania? So I think we have time for each person to share something. So, Nick, did you have any thoughts about that question?
I The Wyomissing Creek kind of has its own set of rules, unfortunately. So we're not
Mm,
tied into what's happening with the PAG 13 updates. But I
yeah.
think even though Jesse, I believe it was highlighted the fact that stormwater is a lot more than just flooding. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that is what most people think of as the biggest impact to them when it comes to stormwater management. Um, and again, right, wrong, or indifferent, the DEP has focused, at least in the draft coverage, on that being one of the major targets for the next general permit cycle. And that's something that people can more easily wrap their heads around than various types of pollutants and the relationship between sediment pollution and bank erosion and nutrient loading, etc., different land uses. That's difficult for the average person to wrap their head around, no matter how much public education we try and do. So, while they are trying to hone in on making stormwater management when it is implemented much more effective than it currently is, which is an exciting facet on the higher level of just focusing on making a message that's more digestible to the public is something that I think is a big step forward that the department is taking.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Um, Ashley, did you have any thoughts about this?
So I'm going to take a very optimistic point of view on this question. What I'm excited about is really to see changes in technology or advancement of BMPs. And the reason I'm saying that is because in Berks County, we have an organization that works with children, younger children, school age children, junior high, high school, and I've had the privilege of sitting with those students and being around those students and the technology that they're designing at such a young age that addresses these problems and taking even microplastics out of water and things like that. That is what excites me, is the next generation of people who are going to be stewards of watersheds.
I love that. I'm very excited about that too. Jamie, would you like to share?
Yeah, so I'm definitely like encouraged to continue to work with residents and continue to see sort of these small on the ground changes and greening of communities. I'm also excited, if you can say excited about stormwater management, that Pennsylvania is going to be shifting from sediment to volume in the next permit. I think that that's going to help us get towards some of the overall holistic issues we're having with stormwater. I'm excited to sort of the new inclusion of various BMPs that will be allowed to be used. And so I think the future is bright and green.
I love that. And Jesse?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with everyone who went before me, but definitely like integrated solutions is really exciting, and not only collaboration, but also like projects that address stormwater while also like improving habitat, community spaces, public parks, and things like that. And just kind of like multifaceted solutions is super interesting for me. Like one thing that we're working on at the Conservancy is like a floating wetland. So using like recycled water bottles and creating a sort of a little habitat for wildlife on an impaired waterway or on a waterway that has a lot of excess nutrients. So we started doing that a couple years ago, and that's been really exciting. It makes ponds and lakes look nicer. We've had ducks nest on them. And then we actually take those plants that have absorbed up all of those nutrients and put them in an area where maybe there's some nutrient deficiencies. So stuff like that, kind of utilizing like limited space and things like that too, is definitely very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. So many great things going on. I'm excited and optimistic as well. I love that the future is green. So now we have a bunch of questions from our audience members. So um, I have my colleague Lillian on the call, who will be reading the questions. And then from there, I can kind of help direct folks to answer. So Lillian, are you there?
Hey Mel, I'm
Hey.
here.
Awesome.
So the first question that we have comes from Charles, and this was kind of a carryover from your presentation, so we wanted to make sure it was addressed. The full question is asking us to talk about doing MS4 efforts at the source, so the house or business level, rather than an area-wide or stormwater management facilities. I believe this was touched on during the presentation, but Charles, would you like any additional clarification?
I don't believe participants can unmute. So for any additional clarification, that can be put in the chat.
Okay, great. I think that's a great question. Jamie, would you be interested in answering that question? I know your group has done some cool stuff with that.
Yeah, sure. I think in especially build out urban watersheds, like where the Stormwater Collaborative is, there's a recognition that there's limited large scale opportunities and that everybody is contributing to, every property contributes to the problem, right? And every property needs to do, even if it's a little tiny thing to solve that. You know, maybe you redirect your gutter off your driveway into something else. We like to say little sips turn out to big gulps, right? And so one of the things is that we see these rain garden programs as doing that, right? We see installing downspout planters in dense urban areas as doing that, taking little sips. We see, redirecting your gutter onto a lawn to meadow conversion that's going to soak the water up more readily than your lawn. We see that as one of those solutions. We see encouraging tree planting and shrub planting and working within parks. Sometimes there's little pocket parks and it seems like you can't do much, but if you can increase the canopy cover, that's important. The big projects we do, we also make sure you're in limited green space in an urbanized area, and the green space has to have multi-functions. And so we make sure that they're multifunctional. We just did a giant project in Glen Borough where we ensured that the stormwater project became a feature in that park. We made sure we got money to include trails to go through the stormwater feature. And so it becomes this holistic approach where everyone has their sort of skin in the game to do something. And it's really kind of about encouraging this different perspective, right? We're used to the American lawn. We're used to our gutters going into the street. And so making those little shifts, maybe your neighbor got a rain garden and you think they're crazy and you think it looks weird. But when you have over 100 rain gardens going to your community, it's no longer a weird approach. It's no longer the different thing. It becomes the new normal. And that's what we're really trying to get at. Whether it's on your individual property, whether it's a business, whether it's in your local park, this is the new normal. This is what we should be striving for. And we want that to be seen.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's a great approach. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful answer to that question. Lillian, can we move to the next question?
Yes, this question comes from Eileen and may have been directed to Ashley. The question is, the stormwater law indicates it is managed at a watershed level. However, when a developed plan comes in, they only manage the water on their parcel, not how it may impact the watershed as a whole. Can we remedy this by updating our ordinances to require stormwater be reduced when leaving the site by a certain percentage, especially depending on where the site is located in the watershed?
That's a really good question. I'm going to give you one of the company lines, which is I can't give legal advice. So I definitely would suggest you talk to the municipal solicitor about your ordinance. I know that DEP has put out model ordinances for stormwater purposes, so I think it's important to make sure that's updated. And you can always add to or take from those model ordinances. I think one thing to consider is, so in Berks County, when Nick referenced before the one water approach, we have a strong regional source water protection program in Berks County. And with that, what we do to implement that plan and that program is on our land development reviews, our planners are putting comments about point sources of pollution being proposed in protection zones for source water protection. So that's one approach we're taking through our land development reviews on a county-wide scale. And from what I understand, we're like the only county that's doing that right now. So, so maybe entering conversations with your county and being like, maybe taking that next step, and how can we make, when projects come in, awareness of, hey, you're in this watershed, hey, you should work with this watershed group to understand what our concerns are for that watershed. That's my best approach. But the ordinance question, I'd talk to your local solicitor.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for asking that question. I think it's good that we're kind of like, sharing these tips and tricks and stuff. But yeah, as we know, there's not a one size fits all approach. Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to another question.
David asks, some municipalities are enacting stormwater taxes to fund BMPs, such as basins. Can municipalities collaborate on sharing the tax revenue to address regional stormwater issues?
I guess, Nick, I'm curious if you have any thoughts about this one.
Well, our collaborative has talked about how we're not a stormwater authority, but we kind of act like one sometimes because of how closely everybody's jointly funding things. But stormwater fees or taxes, whatever you want to refer to them as vernacularly, we have talked about it. Not watershed wide, more some of the individual municipalities in our group. Right now, everybody pulls from their general funds or have a sub fund for stormwater management. But they just pull it from their general funds, and we've tried to keep the actual impact of those costs as low as possible to the members, and we've been able to work through it that way. But for example, one of the boroughs has a very large institutional user that takes up, I think by land area, almost a quarter of the land. A lot of it paved, roofed, whatever, impervious surfaces having a big impact. They're tax exempt. They're a tax exempt entity, so they are not paying really what their impact to the watershed or the borough's share of the watershed is. So that particular municipality has inquired just in the last few months about, at some point, if these regulations keep becoming more cumbersome, if projects keep getting more expensive, are we going to have to implement a stormwater fee to pay our share of the Wyomissing Creek costs? And, that question's still up in the air. It was more of a philosophical question at the time. But my understanding is if you form a multi-municipal collaborative, and it's dangerous to be an engineer and put on a lawyer's hat, so I'll try and tread lightly here. If it were a multi-municipal stormwater authority or a similar entity, then yes, the individual municipalities could jointly share the costs. I believe that sort of thing is happening at other locations in Pennsylvania, but the Wyomissing Creek Coalition as a whole has not talked about implementing it watershed wide, and only one or two of the 8 municipalities has had serious talks about creating their own stormwater fee and or authority to fund their share of the costs. And I should point out, for a lot of these municipalities, the Wyomissing Creek watershed is just one of the watersheds that these municipalities are in. Some of them are in 3 or 4 different watersheds, all of which have different requirements. So for some of these townships, the city of Reading or whomever that might share different watersheds, they've talked about implementing it to fund their total stormwater obligation, not just the costs being part of our group in particular.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. That's really interesting to learn about. I guess on this topic of fees, I'm curious if you, Jessie, if you had any thoughts about this question and using taxes to help fund these things.
Yeah, actually, we really don't have, I have not had much experience with stormwater fees. And my dog's barking again now for some reason.
It's all
It's
good.
whenever I'm unmuted. Sorry about that. Yeah, I am not super familiar with stormwater fees. I know some
Yeah.
of our municipalities, they do use stormwater fees, but I have not had a ton of experience with that. So this is definitely an area that I'm not as familiar with.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Um, we can move on to the next question.
Jillian asks if any of the partnerships or collaboratives being discussed today include representation from a publicly owned treatment works or wastewater facilities in the watershed.
That's a really interesting question. I guess, does anybody, Ashley, I see you unmuted. Are you interested in answering that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of what I just spoke about a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
So in Berks County, we have a source water protection program that has our drinking water systems in the county involved. But we also have, and Nick and I are both active and have been active with this other association, which is the Water and Sewer Association. So if you get the idea of there's a lot of cross pollination. And as far as the MS4 steering committee, if the municipality is the authority as well, yes, there's representation of that municipal authority as well as stormwater and water and wastewater. So that's just us there of having that representation. Plus, we've also done, we've collaborated because we have public municipal employees from the Public Works Department usually attending and part of the collaborative, especially for trainings. Those are also, again, people who are maintaining those facilities. So there's a lot of cross pollination in Berks County, just from our point of view.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious about other folks' experiences. Has anyone else kind of worked with partnerships that involve water and sanitary sewer utility agencies? Jesse, Jamie, or Nick?
We
Jamie?
have not,
Okay.
no.
The Wyomissing Creek, at one of our earlier meetings, there is one wastewater treatment plant located
Mm.
near the mouth of the Wyomissing Creek. Um, we had some dialogue with them about the impacts of our projects on theirs and vice versa, but we haven't met with them recently because, frankly, they've been meeting their permit limits, and they are all the way down at the mouth of the watershed. So our progress is partially measured by DEP coming out every couple years and testing the status of the watershed and its attainment or lack thereof. There's only one site in the entire watershed downstream of that wastewater treatment plant. So, while it is the last one, and if somehow we get the entire watershed all the way down to where it hits the Schuylkill to comply, that would be lovely. I think we're a little ways away from that, but we've had dialogue with them, but not recently because at least in our particular case, it didn't really impact our work very much.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for that answer. And I think we're at the end of our Q&A time. We still have more questions, but feel free to, if folks want to email those to me, I'd be happy to facilitate getting some more answers about those questions. Um, yeah, thank you, panelists, for being here. Thank you for sacrificing your time. I'm going to now pass the meeting to Amy Verbovsky, who will kind of give us some closing remarks and leave us with some next steps. So, Amy, are you there? We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. So, uh, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Amy Verbowski. I'm the program lead of community planning at DVRPC. As we wrap up today, I just want to echo Mel's thanks and say thank you to the panelists for sharing their time, their experience and practical insights. We really enjoyed talking to each of them in the course of putting our report together, and we're really glad they were able to join us today. Thank you to Karen for getting us started today, and big thanks to Mel for organizing this webinar and for sharing their work. Of course, I want to thank everybody who joined us. We had a lot of people show up for this meeting today, and I think it just really is a testament to, this is a topic that folks are very interested in, and we've got a lot of work to do. So thank you for joining us. I think today's conversation highlighted both challenges that municipalities are facing around stormwater, but the kind of momentum that's building around collaboration for stormwater management. So from kind of shared education efforts to joint planning and implementation, collaboration is already helping municipalities kind of move beyond just compliance with the permit to kind of more resilient and effective stormwater management. And I think for me, the panel really reinforced the importance of, getting to know your neighbors, building trust, and kind of, I think the key word is ultimately getting comfortable with working together. So really excited by this discussion today. For communities looking for some additional support right now, we're going to share several kind of funding and technical assistance resources in the chat. They include links to EPA's Region 3 Water Technical Assistance, the Water Center at Penn, as well as DVRPC's Funding Navigator program. All of these programs can help municipalities prioritize needs around water infrastructure, identify funding opportunities, and build capacity to advance kind of stormwater and water infrastructure projects. We're also sharing a link to a recent newsletter from the Water Center that had a lot of great kind of current or upcoming funding and training opportunities. So we really encourage folks to take a look at those. And there's a lot of resources there if this is kind of something you're interested in right now. We also want to know that DVRPC is committed to continuing this conversation and supporting municipalities as they explore collaborative approaches, whether it's through sharing information, connecting partners, or helping to identify funding and technical assistance opportunities. We really encourage you to stay engaged, to review the report, and to reach out if you're interested in kind of learning more or exploring next steps. And speaking of next steps, we are going to be sharing updates soon about upcoming municipal stormwater collaboration opportunities. We're going to be working with a consultant to provide targeted support to interested municipalities on our PA side. Again, this is coming with some PADEP funding to take concrete steps towards working together for stormwater management. So with that, a few logistical notes. As the slide shows, we're going to be, or I guess first we will be posting a recording of today's webinar to DVRPC's YouTube channel. So we will send an email out when that recording is available. We can also share the kind of the links and resources that I just talked about in that email as well. And then once we close the meeting out, a survey will appear on your screen. We really would encourage you to complete this post-meeting survey. It really helps us to plan good meetings for the future. So I think with that, I'll just say thank you again. Mel, do we have anything else to note?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. This was great. I look forward to chatting in the future as well.
Oh, Chris just shared one additional resource. Thank you, Chris. That's from our Delaware County Conservation District, the Low Volume Roads Program. Great opportunity as well. All right. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, DRVPC folks. Great job.